because you have purchased my PDF pattern and want to learn how to assemble it, then you're in the right place. And if you happen to stumble to this video by accident, then I thank you for being here and stay tuned. Assuming that you have already downloaded the pattern, here's a quick overview on how to print it properly. First, you need to locate your file, open the PDF document, and click the print icon or just press Ctrl P. To maintain the correct dimensions, make sure that the paper sizing and handling option is set to actual size or custom scale 100. To make sure that the measurement is accurate, try to print just the first page and measure the test print. It should only measure 1 by 1 inch only, and once confirmed, go ahead and print the remaining pages. The pattern pieces are very straightforward, and the only part that requires assembling is the crossbody strap, but don't worry, it's clearly noted in the pattern, so it's very easy to put together. And also its pattern pieces is labeled with the number of materials that you need to cut. And just give it a quick press, and now we're ready for assembly. So here we go, and let's construct the front panel. And to start, you need to locate the front and back panel, the front packet, card holder 1, card holder 2, and card holder 3. Now, if you're using the updated pattern, your pattern would look something like this. Now, the measurements are all the same. I've just added few markings in there and make it color-coded just to make assembly easier for everyone. So for the front panel base layer, we need to cut one main, one fleece for padding, and one lining. Then join the main and the padding by sewing a 1/8 inch base stitch and set the lining aside for later. Then locate the 3 card holder patterns and cut one main and one interfacing. And you can also refer to your pattern for specific measurements of the interfacing. And to construct the card holder 1, you need to transfer the hemline to the wrong side of the fabric. You can use a roller to transfer the hemline easily, or if you're confident enough, you can actually go ahead and hem it directly with a 1/4 seam allowance. Then iron the interfacing onto the wrong side of the fabric, then sew along the hemline. Then you can either cut the pattern if you don't need it again, or just fold it like this, then transfer the solid bottom line to the right side of the fabric. And to construct the card holder 2, just repeat the same exact process used for the first card holder. And for the card holder 3, we need to transfer both the hemline and the solid bottom line onto the wrong side of the fabric. Press the interfacing inside the lines, then hem the top, and finally press the bottom inward approximately along the mark line. So the card holder should match the dimension of the middle part of the card holder patterns. For the front pocket, cut one main and one lining. So the top and the bottom with 1/4 seam allowance, cut small notches on the curve, turn the fabric right side out, and press it flat. And moving on, attaching the front panel pieces. Transfer the first line onto the base layer that indicate the first card packet, or the red line in the updated pattern. Then just attach the card holder 1, then sew it directly onto the base right on the mark line. Next is to transfer the second line or the yellow line on your updated pattern, then repeat the same process. Then just do the same for the third line or the pink line in your updated pattern. Then sew it onto the base with a 1/8 seam allowance. And finally, use any card holder patterns to transfer the vertical dash line or the red line and sew it along to create an accurate card packet. And I also like to do a little backstitch at the intersection to secure them properly and just so they won't tear apart easily for everyday use. And just a friendly reminder to not to forget to wipe any choke markings in your fabric. And just before I do anything, I'd like to test the packets to make sure that the card fits perfectly. And the next is to attach the front packet. So you can either transfer the bottom blow line or sew it directly into the base layer with a 1/2 seam allowance. And now that the front panel is complete, let's move on to construct the back panel. So for this side, we need to use the front and back pattern, the back packet, and the back cover. So for the back panel, base layer is literally the same with the front panel. Cut one main, one fleece for padding, and one lining. And same with the front panel, we just need to join the main and the fleece together by sewing a 1/8 seam allowance. And for the back pocket, we need to cut one main and one interfacing. Then we just need to sew it all the way around, leaving a small spot open so that way we can turn it right side out. And make sure to cut small notches for a much defined curves. And also you can use any kind of sharp tool to really push that pointy edges out and maintain the shape. And for the back pocket cover, repeat the same process used for back pocket. And I also like to trim the edges so it's not very bulky. And to attach the top button, just transfer the dot from the pattern into the lining side of the cover. So depending on your preference, you can actually leave this part without buttons, or you can attach your choice a button. For this one, I'm going to be using a magnetic closure only because it's very efficient and so easy to install. In case you want to use the same magnetic closure, always use the smallest part of the buttons for the cover. So what I do is I gently press the legs into the fabric to kind of trace it, and then I reinforce it with a choke marking so it's more visible. Then I use my handy dandy seam ripper to cut a small hole enough to accommodate the legs. And then I just insert the legs into the hole, attach the metal plate, and I also like to spread the legs outward to secure it, and also this way it won't be so bulky. And that's all for the top cover. And now let's assemble the back panel. So we can either transfer the blue backs from the pattern or sew the pieces directly into the base layer with a 1/2 inch distance throughout from the edges. So attach the back pocket, aligning the edges on the marking line, and sew it all the way around except the top. Then attach the back cover, aligning the top edge to the upper line and sew the top part only. And to attach the other pair of the closure, I just like to press the top button to trace it, and again I use a choke marker to reinforce it and make it more visible, and use the same tool to cut a small hole for the legs. Then insert the legs into the hole and attach the metal plate and just spread the legs outward to secure it. And that's all for the back panel. Attaching the pin holder. Now this is an optional feature. If you decided not to have one, then you may skip this part. But if you do, then just cut one main, then hem the top and fold the fabric right side together so it won't have seam allowance, and turn it right side out. Next is to join the front and the back panel. If you decided to keep the pin holder, you can attach it in between of the front and the back panel. For me, it doesn't really matter which side to put it. It just depends on where you think is more accessible for you. But since I don't want it, I'll just take it out and sew the sides together using a 1/2 seam allowance. You can also serge or zigzag the edges and then just turn the bag right side out. Alright, so the main bag is complete, and now let's assemble the front cover. So we need to locate the front cover pattern, of course, and cut one main, one for the padding, and one lining. Then join the main and the padding together by sewing a 1/8 base stitch. And I'm gonna be using the bow accent for this cover. If you're using a fabric that unravels, be sure to add a 1/4 seam allowance. Cut one main and one piece for the lining. Sew the sides together with a 1/4 seam allowance. Turn the fabric right side out and press it flat. So from your front cover pattern, you need to transfer the blue line to the front cover. But if you're using a lighter fabric, then cut it to the exact measurement of the pattern. To make the perfect bow, gather the center part of the fabric using your pointer and middle finger. And from there, grab the fabric and guide it in a circular motion. Make sure that the fabric is still facing up, and finally tie a knot. Then attach the bow into the cover, aligning the bottom edge with the mark line, and then place the lining right side together and sew it all the way around with a 1/2 seam allowance. Then cut small notches to have defined curves and turn it right side out. So I'm not gonna have a detailed tutorial for the line accent as it was already self-explanatory. And to attach the top button, you can locate the center point by folding the cover in half, or simply transfer the dot from the pattern into the cover. So I'm going to be using middle closures just like in the back pocket, so I'm not going to explain this part even further. But just make sure when you're cutting a hole that you're only doing it in the lining part of the cover. And then just attach the top button into the lining side of the cover just like before. And that's all for the cover, so hang in there, we are almost there. Now for the strap holder. Locate the strap holder and cut one main. Attach the inner facing if necessary and sew the sides together with a 1/2 seam allowance. Then turn it right side out with a safety pin. Or you can also fold the fabric into 4 sides and then top stitch directly. Then you can cut the strap into 3 parts, measured about 2 inches long. And attach the D-rings hardware. Then attach the strap in both sides of the bag, and you can also add one for the back if you plan to use the lanyard. If not, then just leave it out. Then attach the main cover to the back with the right side facing together. But since I only intend to use the crossbody strap, I'm going to remove the strap holder at the back. Next is to add a lining. Locate the lining pieces and sew the sides together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I found it way easier to fold the bag just like that and then just slide it through the lining. And just make sure that you keep the lining in the wrong side. Also try to match the side seams of the lining in the main bag. So it may look like the lining is too wide, but it will eventually fit together. So basically just trust the process. Then sew it around the top and sides if you can. Then fold the lining all the way up. Next is to tack or fold the raw edges inward, and I do a 1/8 top stitching to finish it. And finally tack the lining piece inside and just smooth it out. And you can also top stitch the top or leave it as it is. So I just figured this one out. To attach the remaining pair of the button, you can actually rub a chalk on the top button and press it on the fabric. This will make a clear and visible mark directly. And you can also do the same thing with the legs as well. And I think that's really neat, so now we can go ahead and attach the remaining piece of the button. So for this side, I also like to glue a small piece of filled fabric on top of the legs, just to keep it from scratching my card. So the bag is now complete, and moving on to the straps. Cut one main fabric on fold, and then fold the fabric 4 times. If you're using a cotton fabric, then it's better if you press it first. Then insert the swivel hook and open up the fabric. Then sew the side seams together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And next is to fold the fabric back to its original folded position and top stitch all the way around in both sides. And gather the strap together and top stitch about 1 inch long. And here we have a perfect wristlet. And for lanyard assembly, just repeat the same process used for wristlet. For a crossbody strap, cut one on fold depending on your desired length. Then press the ends inwards with a 1/4 seam allowance if you're using a fabric that unravels. If not, then go ahead and fold the fabric 4 times and top stitch the entire length in both sides. And lastly, attach the swivel hook in both ends and secure it with an X pattern. And finally, to the very last part of this tutorial. To make an adjustable crossbody strap, you need to cut one piece and fold with a full length or longer if needed. Then just repeat the same previous step on top stitching the fabric. Then we would need one buckle strap slider and 2 swivel hook. And to start, take one end of the strap and loop it through the metal centerpiece of the slider. Sew it in place with a 1-inch stitch, and if you want, you can also reinforce it with an X pattern for added durability. Then take the other end of the strap, making sure that it's not twisted, and insert one of the swivel hook. And I like to bring it all the way close to the slider. Then rotate the handle so the actual hook will be on the right side. And then take the other end of the strap and thread it through the buckle slider. Now at this point, you should be able to move the slider or adjust the strap in any length you want. And just so you know, if you don't want to purchase my pattern, that is completely fine. And I actually have a separate video with a complete guide on the measurements and everything, so you can check it out in the description box below if you want. And lastly is to attach the swivel hook into the opposite end of the strap, and you can sew and secure it with an X pattern. And we have finally made it. So if you're still here, I want you to know how much I really appreciate you. So thank you so very much, and you have a great day. Bye.